Do you tend to have people who are more like who want to be more heavily involved, or kind of? You said you just got the first person who, like recently,
Was like hands off.
who's just like, yeah, I don't care, do whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it tend to be hard the other direction?
I think what was probably the most hard thing for me, and it's still something that that is a factor for me, but I think because of where we live, there's like very specific styles and tastes that come from our area, and then we're also like a smaller town. We're growing, which is awesome. I'm so excited about it. But I think that especially someone that's starting out in the interior design field, it's harder for me to I guess have a large client pool of people that are interested in the same design style that I am, if that makes sense. So what I do is I feel like I'm kind of like a chameleon designer, where I'm designing for the farmhouse client, or I'm designing for the very traditional client, or I'm designing for the bohemian client. But I think as I build my portfolio and take on more jobs, that will come. But I think like the other niches of that, like we have a ton of great designers here locally, and great design shops that we didn't even have 10 years ago. It was mostly furniture stores.
Yeah.
But I think that honestly, none of the designers here are in competition, because they all have a niche of what they do really well.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that that's something that I think you were getting to. The longer you do this, the less you're gonna bend and mold your particular style, and eventually people are gonna be coming to you for your style.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's something I'm just starting to get into.
I would say I'm sure it's the same with photography or any kind of creative outlet. Like,
I mean,
at first you're like, I just need to take work.
Right.
And then at some point you're like, okay, I'm at a point where I can vet the type of work that I'm taking.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I first started, I was taking any and everything I could possibly take, and not that I'm gonna like turn work down now, but like it's most of the time now the work kind of filters itself out.
Yeah.
Like somebody's like, "Hey, can you come and do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for this," and they're like,
right. Yeah.
"Oh, never mind." I'm like, "Yeah."
And at some points, I feel like it stretches my creativity, right? So if I'm working on a project that isn't necessarily in my comfort zone or my wheelhouse, it allows me to grow as a designer.
Now, like if somebody comes along, what I meant by that, by like it'll filter itself out most of the time, is like when I first started out, it was like, "Hey, can you come and like shoot a birthday party or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," for like $40 or whatever.
Yeah.
When you first start out, you do stuff like that.
Sure.
You're not going to want me to come and shoot your birthday party now.
Yeah.
Like, because you just get someone else. Trust me. Unless it's a really important birthday party, then I'll, by all means.
But we all start somewhere. Like the growth is so cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if somebody was like, "Hey, can you come and shoot my birthday party?" And I'm like, yeah, for this right here, I can be there for X amount of hours. And they're like, "All right, yeah, cool." And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm shooting a birthday party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I would definitely like flex my creative muscles a little bit to see how I can, play with this, instead of just like, you're paying me, an amount of money that like I shouldn't just go up there and act like I was paid $40.
Right.
I make it worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an opportunity
You're
to
still going to bring your A game.
Exactly.
With every project and client.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been it's crazy. Like I sit back and like look at, even it's insane. Like 2 years ago, I was nowhere even remotely close.
Right.
To where like not that I'm on top of the world or anything, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you seem like you did a lot of growth in 2020.
I did.